They sent me to the car on Christmas night to cool off. I opened the icy SUV, but she was already inside. My stepmother, cheek red, phone camera silently recording. The victim's script perfected. The next morning, social media and her lawyer called me the abuser, but I'm an industrial electrician. I never enter a room without knowing the current. This time, I'm tracing every wire. Money, law, emotion, right back to the source. My name is Kira Alden. I'm 32 years old. And on Christmas Eve, I drove back to Briarfield, Ohio, the town that still felt like a poorly fitted boot. Even after all this time, I'd spent 2 hours in holiday traffic, the smell of cinnamon and baked apples from the pie on my passenger seat filling the cab of my truck. It was a peace offering, that, and the new breaker box I had in the back. A proper industrial-grade unit to replace the humming, sparking mess in my father's workshop. A practical gift, because that's who I am. I work for North Shore Gridworks. I climb poles in ice storms and map substations. I understand energy, how it flows, how it's stolen, and how it shorts out. I don't like ambiguity. I like things that are grounded, secure, and properly wired. The house hadn't changed. Still the same beige siding, still the same wreath Savannah Pike always bought, the one with the obnoxious, oversized, glittery pine cones. I balanced the pie and the heavy tool bag. My father, Graham Alden, opened the door. He looked smaller than I remembered from Thanksgiving. His skin had a gray, papery quality, and his eyes, once sharp and blue, were clouded with a fatigue that went bone deep. He hugged me, but it felt like holding a bundle of dry sticks. "Kira, you made it." "Wouldn't miss it. Dad," I tried to inject cheer I didn't feel. The smell of the house hit me. Not pine and roasting turkey, but Savannah's perfume, a heavy floral scent that always seemed to coat every surface. She emerged from the dining room, a vision in emerald green velvet, holding a phone. Her smile was a performance, bright and brittle. "Kira, darling, you're here. Just in time." The table was magnificent. I had to give her that. It looked like a magazine cover. Fine china, crystal glasses, a centerpiece that probably cost more than my monthly utilities. But Savannah wasn't looking at the table, or at me, or at my father. Her eyes were locked on the screen in her hand, thumb scrolling, scrolling, even as she gestured for me to sit. Her attention was somewhere else entirely, capturing the scene, perhaps, or curating her audience. Sit, Graham, get Kira a drink." We ate. The turkey was dry. My father pushed food around his plate. Savannah took 30 photos of the tablescape, the food, the wine glasses. I tried to talk about the new breaker box, about the fire hazard in the workshop. "That old paneling. Dad, it's not up to code. The one I brought has AFCI protection. It'll trip if it detects a dangerous arc." "Oh, honey, technical talk at Christmas?" Savannah laughed, a high, tinkling sound that grated. "We just had all that handled, didn't we, Graham?" My father winced, glancing at her. Yes, the house maintenance. This was it, the reason the air felt charged. "What maintenance?" I asked, setting my fork down. "Because I still have access to the utility accounts online. The grid draw hasn't changed, and the water bill is identical to last quarter's. So what maintenance?" Savannah's smile tightened. "Kira, it's incredibly rude to question household finances. We had some roofing issues, emergencies." "Roofing?" I looked at the ceiling. "It hasn't snowed heavily yet. What roofing emergency costs?" I stopped, but the hook was set. "Costs what, Kira?" Savannah's voice dropped. "The joint account transfer I saw," I said, keeping my voice level. "The one I get alerts for. $18,400. That's not maintenance. Savannah, that's a new car." Graham dropped his fork. It clattered against the china with a sharp crack. "Kira, please, not tonight." "No, Graham," Savannah said, her voice suddenly trembling. She pushed her chair back, her hand flying to her chest. "She's right. She should know. She should know how much work it is managing this big, old house. how much work it takes to protect your father. And then it happened. It was so fast, I almost missed it. She stood, and as she turned, she seemed to stumble, her hips striking the sharp, carved corner of the dining room buffet. She let out a sharp, theatrical gasp, a sound that was too loud for the movement. She brought her hand to her cheek, which was suddenly, vividly red. I stared. I hadn't moved. I was still holding my napkin. I was 6 feet away. "Oh, God," she whispered, her eyes wide, glistening with instant, perfect tears. She looked at my father, her lower lip trembling. My father's face crumpled. Panic flooded his eyes. He shot up from his chair, knocking it over. "Kira!" His voice was a roar, a broken sound. "What did you do? Why do you always have to do this? You always ruin every dinner." "Dad, I didn't touch her," I said. My voice was flat. I was observing a circuit short out, watching the sparks fly. "I saw you," he yelled. You were arguing, and just look at her." Savannah was now weeping, huddled against the wall. I just wanted a nice Christmas. Graham, I just wanted peace." Her hand was still pressed to her cheek, the skin beneath it a perfect, angry red. "I'm not doing this," I said, standing up. "No, you're right," Savannah said, sniffing, her voice gaining a martyr's strength. "It's fine. It's my fault. The house is it's too full, too much emotion." She looked at me, not with anger, but with a terrible, calculated pity. "Kira, darling, maybe it's best if you just get some air. We all need some space to cool off." My father, desperate for a solution, latched onto it. "Yes, space. That's a good idea. The car. Just go to the car for a bit. Kira, let things cool down." "The car?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "It is -8 degrees Celsius out there." "It's for the best, Kira," Savannah said softly, rubbing her cheek. "Just for a little while. For peace. For peace." My father wouldn't meet my eyes. He was already fussing over Savannah, guiding her to the sofa, his hands fluttering. "Get the throw blanket, Kira. Just go." I looked at the man who taught me to splice wire. I looked at the woman who was a stranger. I saw the scene they had set. My pie was uneaten on the table. My tool bag was by the door. I grabbed my jacket. I grabbed the thick wool blanket from the hall closet. I didn't slam the door. I closed it very, very quietly. The cold hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. The night was sharp and still, the snow on the lawn glowing blue under the streetlights. My truck was parked down the street, but the family SUV was in the driveway. It was closer. My father's words echoed. "Go to the car." He meant this car. The metal of the door handle was so cold it felt like it burned my glove. I pulled it open, the interior light flickering on, illuminating a frosted windshield and the faint smell of stale coffee. I tossed the blanket in and turned to climb into the driver's seat. And I froze. There was someone in the car. In the back seat, lying down, was Savannah. My heart stopped. I just stood there, one foot in the vehicle, the cold air rushing around me. She wasn't moving. For 1 second, a terrible, cold dread washed through me. Then she shifted. She was holding her phone, propped up on the headrest of the passenger seat, the camera lens pointing directly at the spot where I would have been sitting. She was adjusting the angle, her fingers moving deftly in the dim light. She looked up at me, her eyes dark. The red mark on her cheek was gone, replaced by a smooth, even layer of foundation. But she wasn't smiling. Her expression was flat, professional. "I got here first," she whispered. Her voice was strange. It wasn't the trembling, victimized voice from the dining room. It was low, steady, and bizarrely triumphant. It was the voice of someone ticking a box on a checklist, marking a timestamp. I took a step back, my hand still on the door. My mind, the part of me that diagnoses problems, was spinning. The scene, the argument, the fake stumble. The red mark that appeared and disappeared. My father's predictable reaction. The suggestion to go to the car. It was a setup, all of it. I became aware of the smell in the SUV. It wasn't coffee. It was her perfume. That same heavy floral scent. But it was overwhelming, as if she had just sprayed it. It was the smell of a freshly staged scene. And I saw something else, on the floor of the passenger side, the corner of a white box, a medical logo faintly visible. I looked at her, at the phone, at the way she was positioned, as if waiting for a co-star. "What are you doing, Savannah?" She just watched me. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a heavy, insistent buzz. I pulled it out, my fingers numb from the cold. It was a text message from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. The message was simple. "You will pay for being an ungrateful daughter." Attached was a picture. It was a close-up of Savannah's face, her cheek bright red, tears shining in her eyes. She was in the dark. She was in the SUV. And in the bottom corner of the image, a digital timestamp, white against the darkness. 11:07 p.m. I looked at my own phone. It was 11:15 p.m. She had been out here. She had taken the picture, applied the makeup or the irritant, set the scene, and then gone back inside to start the fight. She had been waiting for me. She knew I would be sent out here. I looked back into the car. Savannah hadn't moved. She was just watching me, her little experiment, to see what I would do. I didn't say a word. I took the wool blanket back out of the car. I closed the door, very gently, leaving her in the dark. I walked past the house, past the glowing windows, to my truck. I got in, cranked the heater, and watched the house. I watched the circuit. I watched the load. The game was on. I didn't sleep. I drove back to my apartment in the dark, the heater blasting, my hands gripping the wheel. I spent the early hours of Christmas morning running diagnostics in my head, the cold logic of the setup, the staged photo, the timestamp. I was running on caffeine and a quiet, humming rage when my phone lit up. It was 7:12 a.m., Christmas morning. The notification wasn't a call or a text. It was from Neighborly, the hyperlocal, busybody app for Briarfield. A new post from the Hearts of Briarfield, Savannah's pet charity. The title was, "A Sad Night for Our Community." I clicked it. My stomach tightened. It wasn't signed by Savannah, but by the administrative team. It spoke of the tragedy of elder isolation, of how the holidays bring out complex, sometimes violent, family dynamics. It mentioned an unnamed community leader who, while trying to host a peaceful holiday, was forced to seek refuge from a volatile and aggressive adult child. It was vague, but it wasn't. Everyone in Briarfield knew Savannah was the leader and I was the adult child. The comments were already flooding in. "Praying for you." How awful. Some people are just ungrateful. They were calling me violent. Before I could even process that, an email chimed. The sender was Miles Cranford, Esquire. The subject line, "Cease and desist, Graham Alden." It was a PDF, formal, cold, and immediate. Ms. Alden, this correspondence serves as formal notice. Immediate cessation of all contact. Client, Savannah Pike. Severe emotional distress and physical intimidation. Christmas Eve. My eyes scanned the legalese. Physical intimidation. Volatile behavior. Then I saw the real threat. Further actions, including but not limited to petitioning the Briar County Court for an emergency order of protection for an elderly person, Graham Alden, citing your destabilizing influence. An elder protection order, that wasn't about protecting my father. It was about severing me from him. If she got that, she could control his access, his medical decisions, his finances. She would have total control. My phone buzzed again, this time a group chat from my old high school friends. "Kira, what the hell is this?" It was a link, a video, only 14 seconds long. I pressed play. It was dark, filmed from the inside of the SUV. I recognized the faint glow of the dashboard lights. The audio was mostly whispering. It was Savannah. her face half hidden in shadow, her voice trembling. "It's Christmas Eve," she whispered, the camera shaking as if she were cold or terrified. I just had to hide out here. I just wanted peace." The video cut. I wasn't in it. My voice wasn't in it. There was no context. Just the image of a terrified, crying woman hiding in a car on Christmas. It was perfect. It was damning. It was exactly what she'd been filming when I opened the door. I hit my father's number on speed dial. My hands were shaking now. It went straight to voicemail. I called again and again. On the fourth try, someone picked up. Graham Alden's phone. It wasn't my father. It was Savannah. Her voice was no longer the trembling whisper from the video. It was crisp, cold, and administrative. "Savannah, where is my father? Let me speak to him." "Kira, I don't think that's appropriate," she said, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "He's very shaken up. We've all been through a trauma." "You staged a trauma. Savannah, I saw you in the car. I have the text message. I know what you did." There was a pause, a tiny, assessing silence. When she spoke again, the faux velvet was gone, replaced by steel. "You need to stop this. You are harassing us. Mr. Cranford has been very clear. If you have anything further to say, you can let the lawyers talk." Click, she hung up. Let the lawyers talk. That meant she had the documentation. I needed mine. I opened my laptop. My father had given me joint access to his main checking account years ago. Just in case, I'd rarely looked at it. I logged in. The balance was lower, much lower. I scanned the recent transactions. There it was, a wire transfer, dated yesterday, December 24th, at 12:30 p.m., hours before I even arrived for dinner. $18,400. The recipient, Monarch Homeworks LLC. The memo, emergency roof repair. I opened a new tab. I searched the Ohio Secretary of State business database for Monarch Homeworks LLC. Entity established 3 weeks ago. Filing agent Etta Vale. I knew that name. Etta was Savannah's quiet, mousy assistant at the Hearts of Briarfield charity. This wasn't an emergency repair. This was a pre-planned heist. I was in my apartment, the one I paid for, the one where the circuits were clean and the wiring was mine. I stared at the wall. The public attack was a distraction. The real work was happening in the bank accounts, in the legal filings. This wasn't a family fight. This was a hostile takeover. I went to my hall closet. It doesn't look like much, just a standard closet. But behind the coats is a locked cabinet. I opened it. This was my real toolbox. Not just the gear from the North Shore truck, but my personal kit. I pulled out a Pelican case. I laid the items on my kitchen counter, a multimeter, network cable testers, a tone generator, and a few black box mini cameras, the kind I use to diagnose intermittent faults in high-voltage cabinets. Small enough to be invisible, they record on a loop, triggered by motion. I plugged them in to charge. This is my language: voltage, data, resistance, continuity. Savannah had chosen her weapons: whispers, lies, and social media. Fine, I would use mine. I needed time. I couldn't do this and handle a 48-hour storm shift. I called my supervisor, Dax Ruiz. He's a no-nonsense guy who respects the grid. He picked up on the second ring. "Alden, Merry Christmas. Don't tell me the substation on Elm is out." "Merry Christmas. Dax. No. Grid's stable. Listen, I need to call in a personal emergency. I need 48 hours. Maybe 72. Dax was quiet. I am not the call-in type. "Everything okay?" "Just, I've got a bad circuit at my family's place," I said. "A serious short. It's complicated. Messy wiring. Someone's going to get hurt if I don't trace it back to the source and ground it." Dax, who has seen me rewire a live panel in a blizzard, understood. "A short, huh? Those are the worst. They can burn a whole place down. You do what you need to do. Alden, find the fault. Call me when the lights are back on." "Will do." I hung up. Now the data. I went back to the neighborly post. The 14-second video was there, and so was the picture she'd sent me last night, the one time-stamped 11:07 p.m. I downloaded both. I ran them through an EXIF data viewer. Just as I suspected, the GPS data was scrubbed, smart, but she wasn't smart enough. The metadata for the phone model was there, and the video compression signature. I looked at the video. The shaky cam was good, but the audio profile was clean, too clean, no wind noise. Even though I knew it was gusting last night, it was filmed in a quiet, controlled environment. And the compression pattern on the video file was identical to the compression pattern on the still photo. They were created, processed, and saved in the same session, likely using a specific video editing app before being uploaded. This wasn't a spontaneous cry for help. This was a production. She had edited this package before the confrontation. My phone vibrated. That same unknown number, the one that sent the picture. My heart hammered. I opened the new message. It was 2 words. Check the trunk. I stared at it. Who was this? An ally? A mistake? Was it Savannah? Playing another game? No. This felt different. This felt like a loose wire. I grabbed my keys. I drove back, not to my father's house. I parked a street over. I cut through the O'Leary's backyard, staying in the shadows. The house was dark, except for the garish Christmas tree lights in the window. The SUV was still in the driveway, a dark, silent lump. I walked up the driveway. My keys had the fob for the SUV. I hit the trunk button. The latch clicked open with an audible thunk that sounded like a gunshot in the silent morning. I paused, listened. Nothing. I lifted the trunk door. The interior light came on. It was empty, except for a folded blanket and an ice scraper. Wait. I lifted the floor mat, the one that covers the spare tire. There it was. It was a bag, a new, white, medical-grade kit bag. It wasn't a standard car first aid kit. This was professional. It was sealed with a piece of heavy-duty packing tape. And on the tape, printed on a sticker, was a barcode. And beneath the barcode, a name. Lakeway Pavilion. Urgent Care. Lakeway was the new, expensive private clinic and spa over in the next county. The place Savannah was always gushing about. I didn't open the bag. I didn't need to. This was the prop box. This was the makeup she used to create that red, abused cheek. This key, combined with the video and the pre-written posts, was the evidence of her preparation. She hadn't just planned for a fight. She had planned for a war, and she'd brought her arsenal. I took a picture of the bag, the barcode, the location. I closed the trunk. As I walked back to my truck, the cold didn't bother me. It felt clean. Savannah thought she was a stage manager. She didn't know she was dealing with an auditor, and I was about to check every last receipt. I got back to my apartment and locked the deadbolt. The adrenaline from the driveway confrontation was fading, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. My apartment, with its exposed conduit and neatly organized wiring, was my sanctuary. It was a place where things made sense, where A connects to B, and B grounds to C. What happened at my father's house was a system overload, a deliberate and malicious short circuit. I didn't need sleep. I needed a schematic. I grabbed the largest whiteboard I used for mapping complex grid projects and set it up in my living room. I drew a horizontal line across the middle. This was my timeline. Every piece of data had to be pinned to this line. First entry, I marked it. 10:50 p.m., dinner. The atmosphere was a low-grade electrical hum. The air thick with things unsaid. The tension was the baseline. Second entry, 11:07 p.m., the text message. The photo of Savannah in the car. Cheek red. Time-stamped. This was her incite incident, the moment the script officially began. Third entry, I went to the Neighborly app. The post was still there, gathering sympathetic comments. I needed the real post time, not just the 7:12 a.m. Christmas morning publish. I'm not a web developer, but I know how data moves. I pulled the RSS feed for the Hearts of Briarfield blog, the one that feeds the app, and there it was, buried in the XML metadata, a draft entry. Draft updated at, with a Unix timestamp. I ran the conversion. The timestamp translated to 11:20 p.m. I wrote it on the board, 10:50 p.m. Dinner, 11:07 p.m. Staged photo, 11:20 p.m. Draft of public accusation. She had the entire narrative written, edited, and saved before I had even closed my apartment door. This was premeditation, but it wasn't the whole story. The narrative was the cover for the extraction. I went back to the bank statement. The $18,400 transfer to Monarch Homeworks LLC. I looked at the timestamp again. 12:30 p.m. Christmas Eve. This was the key. The money was moved 10 hours before the fight. This wasn't a reaction to the emergency of the dinner. The dinner was the justification for the money that was already gone. I already knew Monarch was registered to Etta Vale, Savannah's assistant, a shell company. The money wasn't for a roof. It was for Savannah. Etta was just the pass-through, the fuse in the circuit. Now, I needed the physical evidence. I needed to bridge the gap between the house and the car. I looked at the clock. It was still dark, but morning was coming. I needed to move. My next stop was Mr. O'Leary's house, 2 doors down from my father. Mr. O'Leary is a retired machinist who lives alone and trusts very little, except, apparently, me. I had rewired his garage outlet last spring after he'd nearly electrocuted himself trying to fix a short. He owed me one. More importantly, he was a tech hobbyist. He had a top-of-the-line doorbell camera system pointing right at the street, covering his driveway and my father's. I called him. It was early, but I knew he'd be awake. Mr. O'Leary, it's Kira Alden. I am so sorry to bother you on Christmas morning. Kira, nothing's on fire, is it? No, sir. Not literally. I have a strange and very important favor. I need to see your security footage from last night. Specifically, between about 10:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. He was quiet for a moment. That's a heavy ask, kid. I know it is. It relates to my father. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't a matter of safety. He grunted. Safety? Fine. The interface is junk, but the data is good. Come over. Use the side door. 10 minutes later, I was in his cramped office, smelling of stale coffee and machine oil. He pointed to the monitor. There, find what you need. I scrubbed the timeline. The interface was slow, but the camera was high definition. I watched the street. I saw my truck pull up. I saw myself go inside. I fast-forwarded. The street was quiet, snow-dusted, still. And then, at 10:58 p.m., my father's front door opened. It wasn't me. It was Savannah. I stopped the playback. I zoomed. The image was grainy, captured in infrared, but it was unmistakably her. She was wearing the velvet dress. She looked left, then right, and she was carrying something, a bag, a squarish bag held in her right hand. The medical kit from the trunk? She walked quickly, almost furtively, to the SUV in the driveway. She opened the rear passenger side door. She got in. What is she doing? Mr. O'Leary muttered. Sneaking out of her own house. Staging. Mr. O'Leary, I whispered. She's staging. I watched the timeline. 10:58 p.m. She was in the car. I was still in the dining room, being set up for the roofing argument. I had my physical proof, but I needed more. I needed the car's own memory. I thanked Mr. O'Leary, who looked profoundly disturbed but asked no more questions. I went back to my truck. I grabbed the final piece of kit I'd brought. My CAN bus analyzer. It's a diagnostic tool. I use it to read fault codes on the North Shore fleet trucks. Every modern car, including my father's SUV, uses a controller area network. It's the vehicle's central nervous system. Every action, a window opening, a brake pressed, a door unlocked, is logged as a data packet. I walked back to the SUV, still parked in the driveway. The house was dead silent. I didn't care if they saw me. I had a right to be there. I used my fob, knelt by the driver's side, and plugged the reader into the OBD2 port under the steering wheel. My laptop connected. I ran the diagnostic script, filtering for the body control module. I wasn't looking for engine faults. I was looking for timestamps. The log was immediate, a stream of data. I filtered by door sensors. There it was. Timestamp, 10:57 p.m. Event, rear right door. Sensor, open. Timestamp, 10:57 p.m. Event, rear interior dome light, on. Timestamp, 10:58 p.m. Event, rear right door sensor, closed. Timestamp, 10:58 p.m. Event, rear interior dome light, off. This was the moment. It matched Mr. O'Leary's camera footage exactly. Savannah entered the car at 10:57 p.m. I scrolled down the log, my heart beating a steady, cold rhythm. Timestamp, 11:09 p.m. Event, front left door sensor, open. Timestamp, 11:09 p.m. Event, main interior dome light, on. That was me. I stared at the two sets of numbers, 10:57, 11:09. She was in that vehicle for 12 minutes before I even got there. 12 minutes to spray her perfume, which I now realized was a conscious act, an olfactory prop to create the feeling of a person in distress. 12 minutes to set up her phone. 12 minutes to create the red mark, take the photo, and send the text. 12 minutes to prepare her stage. I had walked in on her performance. I saved the log file. I backed it up to my secure drive. I unplugged the analyzer and left the car. I had the physical timeline. I had the financial timeline. I needed the digital one. Back in my apartment, I returned to the Hearts of Briarfield website. Savannah loved to broadcast. She lived her life as one long press release. The charity website had a public Google Calendar for community events. I scanned the calendar. It was full of bake sales and donation drives. I scrolled to Christmas Eve. It was blocked out for family time. But there, at 11:30 p.m., was a new, strange entry, a private-looking entry she must have forgotten to hide. It was titled, Call EAP. I knew what EAP meant, Employee Assistance Program, but in her world, it meant something else. I clicked the entry. The notes section was visible. The note read, Log incident, follow up with Cranford, elder support call, documented threat at 11:07. 11:30 p.m. This was her next step. Right after drafting the neighborly post, she was scheduling her follow-up calls, creating a false paper trail of seeking help after the incident she'd manufactured. She was building her case, timestamp by timestamp. I sat back. I looked at the whiteboard. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a three-pronged attack, executed with precision. 1. The financials. The $18,400. Extracted at 12:30 p.m. via the Monarch Shell Company, run by Etta. 2. The narrative. The staged event in the dining room, leading to the hiding in the SUV. The photo at 11:07 p.m. The draft post at 11:20 p.m. The lawyer's email at 7:12 a.m. 3. The goal. The legal threat. The elder protection order. It all came together. I finally understood the objective. Savannah didn't just want the money. She wanted the house. She wanted my father's assets. The $18,000 was a test run. The real prize was the property, the savings, the retirement. She knew my father was declining. She was positioning herself to get full control. She needed two things. She needed to be seen as the devoted caretaker, and she needed me, the only other family, to be seen as a violent, unstable threat. The emergency order of protection would be the legal scalpel. It would cut me out, leaving Graham Alden alone, isolated, and completely dependent on his protector. She could then move all his assets, including the house, into a living trust that she alone controlled. It was brilliant, in its own dark, sociopathic way. She had weaponized her victimhood to commit a robbery in broad daylight. I looked at the data, the CAN bus log, the doorbell camera footage, the bank transfer timestamp, the RSS feed metadata, the Google Calendar entry. Savannah thought I was an emotional problem to be managed. She had forgotten what I am. I am an engineer. I am a systems analyst. She had built a faulty system, and I knew exactly how to dismantle it. I put down my pen. My path was clear. I would not fight her on social media. I would not yell or cry. I would not engage in the drama she created. I would counterattack with data. Every one of her lies would be met with unverifiable, time-stamped fact. I would take her weaponized narrative and I would ground it. I couldn't go back in. Not as a daughter. Anyway, the cease and desist letter from Cranford was clear. I was legally barred from contacting or harassing my father or Savannah, but the letter said nothing about me acting in my professional capacity. I still had the new breaker box in my truck, the one I'd brought as a gift. It was a legitimate, necessary repair. The old panel in my father's garage was a fire hazard, a fact I had documented in emails to him for months. This was my way in. I typed up a formal work order on a North Shore Gridworks invoice template. Service: emergency panel replacement. Reason: documented arc fault risk. Customer: Graham Alden. I didn't call the house. I drove there in my work truck, the one with the North Shore logo on the side, and parked in the driveway. It was the day after Christmas. I was banking on Savannah being too arrogant to stop me, and my father being too confused to intervene. I needed to plant my own diagnostic tools. If Savannah was building a false narrative inside the house, I needed to know what it was. First, the porch. I had my tool bag. I rang the bell. No one answered. I could hear the television inside. Good. I went to the porch light switch by the door. I unscrewed the faceplate. Inside, I attached a simple contact microphone, no bigger than a quarter, to the raw wiring. It was a simple circuit. The mic was powered by the light's own current, and it would only activate, recording audio to a tiny internal SD card. When the light switch was flipped on, it was a conditional listener. They'd have to turn on the porch light to talk, thinking they were in darkness. People get careless when they think they're leaving, or when they're welcoming someone in. Next, I needed to see what she was using. What devices were in her network? I had a spare smart plug in my bag, the kind you use to turn on a lamp with your phone. I also had my Wi-Fi logger. I walked into the garage through the side door. It was unlocked, as always. I went to the outlet by the kitchen door, the one everyone used. I plugged in the smart plug. Then I plugged my Wi-Fi logger into the USB port on its side, a tiny, harmless-looking thumb drive. The smart plug was the cover. The logger was the tool. It was now passively sniffing every Wi-Fi packet in the house, logging the unique MAC address, the digital fingerprint, of every phone, laptop, and tablet that connected. I would know when Savannah was home, what devices she was using, and when she was uploading her next batch of lies. That was the passive collection. Now for the active phase. I went back to my apartment and called Noah Slate. Noah and I went to tech school together. He went the cyber route. I went the power route. He works for a company in Columbus called Grayflex Security, a place that does digital forensics and penetration testing for corporations. Slate, he answered, his voice always sounding half asleep and twice as smart as anyone else's. Noah, it's Kira Alden. Alden, don't tell me you blew a transformer and need an alibi. I have a data problem, and I need to know how to map it legally. I gave him the short version, the staged photo, the bank transfer, the shell company, the cease and desist. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "So, you're not calling as a friend. You're calling for a consult. You need a clean chain of custody." Exactly. I have CAN bus logs from a vehicle. I have metadata from a website's RSS feed. I have a doorbell camera's movie file. I need to package it so a lawyer like Cranford can't tear it apart as fruit of the poisonous tree. He'll try anyway, Noah said. Okay, 1. You are now a client of Grayfleck, pro bono. That gives us privilege. 2. Do not, under any circumstances, hack anything. Sniffing your own network traffic in your own apartment is fine. Using a tool on your father's car, which you are presumably authorized to use, is fine. What you just planted is borderline. So we'll call it physical diagnostics. From now on, everything we get because they give it to us. How, Noah? They just declared war. You reverse the current, he said, echoing my own thoughts. You make them think they're pushing, when in fact you're pulling. This Etta Vale, the shell company, that's your entry point. He was right. I needed to meet Etta. I used a burner email account to create a new, temporary business identity. K. Alden, Electrical Consulting. I found the business address for Monarch Homeworks, LLC. It was a post office box, but the filing papers listed Etta's home address as the agent. I drove to her small rental house. I didn't knock. I left a business card in her mailbox with a handwritten note on the back. Alden Residence, Job 1224. Urgent follow-up required. Load balancing for roof installation. An hour later, my burner email chimed. It was Etta. I am not sure what this is regarding. I replied, I am the electrical contractor for the Alden residence. The new roofing materials you've specified have a high metal content. I cannot sign off on the work until I review the electrical schematics for the ice melting and gutter heating elements. The load on the existing panel is already critical. This is a fire hazard liability for your company. I had just handed her a bunch of technical-sounding words that meant nothing, wrapped in a threat that meant everything. Liability. She replied almost instantly, Can you meet? I have the contract. We met at a coffee shop. Etta was exactly as I remembered. Nervous, pale, and desperate to be taken seriously. She was clutching a Monarch-branded folder. I don't understand, she said, wringing her hands. Savannah handles all the vendors. She just told me to sign the forms for Monarch. It's for the charity, an offshoot. I just need the contract. Etta, I said, keeping my voice neutral, professional. The one for the roofing, and I need the spec sheet for the materials. Oh, yes, the contract. She pulled it out. It's a total home care package. Savannah authorized it. Mr. Alden signed it. She pushed it across the table. I saw my father's signature, but it wasn't. Right. It looked like a digital signature block, pasted onto a PDF. This is just a printout, I said. I need the original digital file. Etta, for my insurance. I have to verify the signature's metadata. She looked confused. The metadata? The digital certificate, I said, inventing on the fly. To prove it hasn't been altered. It's standard for any work over $10,000. Just email me the original file you received. I'll scan it for the certificate, and you'll be cleared. Oh, of course. Relieved to have a simple task, she pulled out her phone. I have it right here. Savannah sent it to me to file. She tapped her screen. What's the email? I gave her the burner address. My phone chimed a second later. I had the PDF. Thank you, Etta. This is what I needed. I left her there, staring into her cold coffee. Back in my apartment, I opened the file on my laptop, with Noah on a secure video call. Okay, Noah, I have the PDF. Good. Don't just open it. Run it through the metadata analyzer. What are you seeing? I ran the command. The data populated the screen. Author, Graham Alden. Created, December 23rd. Okay, now this. This is interesting. Digital signature certificate issued by... My blood went cold. What? Noah said. The certificate for my father's signature, I said, reading it out loud. It was issued from an email address, spikehearts@briarfield@gmail.com. She signed it, Noah whispered. She forged his digital signature using her own email account, and Etta just filed it. Kira, you've got her. This is fraud. This is a felony. I stared at the screen. This was bigger than I thought. This was hard. Criminal proof. We need more, I said. This is the what. I need the why, and I need to get it in front of the public, but not from me. I opened a new browser tab, the Briarfield Ledger. The local paper was barely solvent, but it had one good reporter, Maya Sarin. She was a young, hungry, community affairs reporter who actually dug into things. I sent another burner email. This one was more cryptic. To msarin@briarfieldledger.com. Subject, a question about charity. What happens when a local charity's director, Hearts of Briarfield, has her assistant, Etta Vale, create a shell LLC, Monarch Homeworks, to receive a roofing payment, $18,400, from the director's elderly partner, Graham Alden. All hours before a suspicious domestic incident is used to file for an elder protection order? Just asking. You should check the county business filings and maybe cross-reference them with the client list at Lakeway Pavilion. I signed it. A North Shore technician. I attached nothing. I just gave her the wires. It was her job to trace them. One last trap. The most important one. I went back to my father's house. This time, I had my full kit. I was going to install the breaker box. I called the house phone first. My father answered, his voice shaky. "Dad, it's Kira. I am outside. I am here in a professional capacity to replace the faulty breaker panel in the garage. This is a documented fire hazard. I am required to fix it. I will not enter the house. I will be in the garage." "Kira, Savannah says, Dad, this is a fire safety issue. I am doing my job. Do you understand?" "Yes. The garage. Okay." He hung up. I got to work. The garage was cold. I pulled out the old buzzing panel. As I prepped the wall for the new, larger box, I made 2 small modifications. I mounted one of my black box diagnostic cameras inside the wall cavity, its tiny pinhole lens aimed through a pre-drilled hole in the drywall. It wasn't aimed at the breaker box. It was aimed directly at the large, gray steel safe on the other side of the garage, the safe where my father kept the house deeds, my mother's jewelry, and all their important papers. I finished the panel installation. It was a clean, beautiful job. I tested the circuits. Everything was perfect. But I had a problem. How to get Savannah and Etta back into the garage, near the safe? I scheduled a fake maintenance check. I sent an email to my father, CCing Etta Vale at Monarch Homeworks. Subject: Alden Electrical Inspection. Job 12224. This email serves to confirm that the panel replacement is complete. A follow-up inspection by the city is scheduled for Friday at 7 p.m. Please ensure the garage area is clear and all relevant property documentation is available for the inspector. It was nonsense, but it sounded official. Property documentation. The deeds. I knew my father would panic and ask Savannah. I knew Savannah would handle it. I knew she couldn't resist a chance to get her hands on those papers, especially with a city official coming. My camera was in place. The target was set. Then, I added one final piece of bait, a small, simple USB flash drive. I labeled it Alden Trust, Digital Key, and secured it with a magnetic clip to the side of the safe. Noah had helped me set it up. It wasn't a normal USB. The second it was plugged into a computer, it would do 2 things. 1, it would install a forensic watermark on any file it touched, linking it to the user who opened it. 2, it would send a silent, one-time signal to a Greyflex server, logging the IP address of the user. It was a legal trap. Anyone using it would be admitting, in digital ink, their intent to access and alter my father's financial trust. The trap was set. The bait was out. All I had to do now was wait for the current to reverse. Etta's PDF was the key, the one that unlocked the digital door. The forged signature was the felony, but the invoice attached to it was the map. It was Savannah's entire sloppy but arrogant financial plan, laid out in black and white. The total was $18,400, just as the bank transfer had shown, but it wasn't a single line item. Savannah, in her attempt to look official, had broken it down into 6 categories. Emergency structural labor, $10,000. Premium shingle materials, $4,500. County permit, expediting, $1,200. Hazardous material removal, $700. It all sounded plausible, if wildly inflated, but it was the last 2 items that made my pulse quicken. Site logistics coordination, $2,000. Vendor gratuities, kitchen appliance, $2,000. Kitchen appliances, for a roof repair. She was sloppy. She was so confident in her narrative that she hadn't even bothered to clean up the paperwork. This was the shell part of the shell company. The site logistics fee was Eda's payment. The vendor gratuities was Savannah's personal slush fund. I needed to trace that $2,000. The invoice didn't say who the vendor was, but I didn't need it to. I went to the Hearts of Briarfield public Facebook page. Savannah posted constantly, documenting her every charitable act. I scrolled back, looking for her recent fundraisers. There it was, 3 weeks ago, a gala. Hearts of Briarfield and Rivertown Outfitters Winter Fundraiser. Rivertown was the most expensive kitchen and outdoor supply store in the county, the kind of place that sells $900 knives and pizza ovens that cost more than my truck. Savannah was pictured, beaming, holding a check, the Rivertown logo prominent behind her. Monarch Homeworks hadn't just bought shingles. It had bought Savannah $2,000 worth of high-end kitchen gear from a store she already had a relationship with. Now, Eda. The site logistics coordination was too clean. I suspected that $2,000 was exactly 30% of the total profit, a nice round number. I needed to check the charity's payroll. Publicly available IRS filings for nonprofits are usually a year behind, but I got lucky. The Hearts of Briarfield website had an Our Team page. Eda was listed as Administrative Assistant, but when I looked at the cached version of the site from 6 months ago, her title was Part-Time Volunteer. She'd gotten a promotion and a pay bump. I couldn't prove her exact salary, but I could prove the conflict. The director of a charity was hiring a company run by her own assistant to perform work on her personal home, using her partner's money. It was a closed loop of fraud. The loop got even tighter. My phone buzzed. It was an email from my burner account, a reply from Maya Sarin, the reporter. It was just one line. Check the charity's legal partners page. Cranford's on retainer. I checked. Maya was right. The Hearts of Briarfield website. Under a Partners in Service tab, listed Miles Cranford, SK, as providing pro bono legal consultation for our elder care outreach. My blood ran cold. The charity, Savannah's charity, was paying the lawyer who was currently threatening to file an elder protection order against me. Savannah was using nonprofit funds to finance her personal legal battle. She was getting a direct personal benefit from the charity's resources. Cranford wasn't just her lawyer. He was a co-conspirator, whether he knew it or not. This brought me back to my father, the elder in elder care outreach. Savannah's control was no longer just a suspicion. I could see its infrastructure. I started making calls. First, I called my father's pharmacy, the one he's used for 20 years. Hi, I'm calling to check on a prescription refill for Graham Alden. This is his daughter, Kira. One moment, the pharmacist said. Ah, yes, I see Mr. Alden's file. I'm sorry, but your name isn't on the authorized to speak list. I only have Savannah Pike. I've been on that list for a decade, I said, my voice tight. It looks like it was updated last month. Ma'am, per Ms. Pike's request. She is the sole contact for all medical and prescription information. I can't even confirm his medications to you. Sole contact. I hung up and called his general practitioner's office. The same story. Savannah Pike holds the medical power of attorney on file. When did he sign that? He would never, unless he didn't know what he was signing. She had isolated him. She controlled his appointments. She controlled his medication. She controlled his transportation. She was his sole provider of logistical support. And when you control the logistics, you control the person. The $18,400 was just the beginning. She was positioning herself to liquidate everything, and the law would see her as the devoted caretaker. My phone vibrated. A text. That same unknown number. It wasn't a hint this time. It was the smoking gun. It was a screenshot of a text message conversation. The sender's name just S. He's still defending her. It's not working. Recipient. Just do the fight. S. I'm trying. She's not taking the bait. Recipient. Then forget the bait. Just get her out of the house. Push her to the car. We need the timestamp. S. Fine. I'll do it. Get ready. My hands were shaking as I read it. Push her to the car. We need the timestamp. This was Savannah. This was her. Coordinating the attack with someone. But who? Etta? Cranford? The recipient's name was blocked. This text proved it. It proved the fight was manufactured. It proved the timestamp was the goal. This, combined with the CAN bus logs and the doorbell camera, was irrefutable. Who was sending me this? I replied to the number. Who are you? The reply was instant. Someone who doesn't like to see the books cooked. Keep digging. The books. The medical kit. I still had the photo of the barcode from Lakeway Pavilion. I called their main number. Lakeway Pavilion, how can we help you? I put on my charity voice, the one I heard Savannah use, bright, efficient, a little condescending. Hi there, I'm calling from Hearts of Briarfield. I just need to reorder an item for our community outreach program. I have the item number from our last order? Of course, ma'am. What's the number? I read her the barcode number. One moment. Yes. You'd like to reorder the soft tissue injury photographic support kit? The name was so clinical, so specific, it was almost comical. That's the one, I said. The, support kit. Great. And will this be billed to the same account as the last one? The Hearts of Briarfield general account? Yes, I said, my voice a whisper. That will be perfect. I hung up. The charity. The charity had paid for the medical kit used to stage the abuse that would allow the charity's lawyer to file an elder protection order, which would give the charity's director full control of my father's assets. The loop was complete, a perfect, self-sustaining vortex of fraud. All of it centered on one goal, the living trust. I knew from my own parents' planning that a living trust would allow Savannah to bypass probate, bypass the will, and gain immediate control of the house and all other assets for the benefit of Graham's care. My father would still be alive, but he would own nothing. She would be the trustee, the beneficiary, and the caretaker. I remembered the safe in the garage. My camera was pointed right at it. I remembered my father's old habits. He and my mother used to check their papers every Friday night, a ritual left over from when they were young and poor. A ritual I was sure Savannah had co-opted. The email about the inspection was for this Friday. I was betting she'd use her regular Friday bill check to get into that safe, and my camera would be watching. She'd see the deeds. She'd see the trust key USB, and she would take the bait. I had it all. The financial fraud, the legal conspiracy, the photographic, digital, and now text message proof of the staging. I could call the police. I could call the IRS. I could send it all to Maya Sarin and let her blow Savannah's life apart on the front page of the ledger. But I stopped. I looked at the whiteboard, the lines, the arrows, the timestamps. It was a map of a crime, but it was also a map of my father's humiliation. He wasn't just a victim, he was a participant. He had yelled at me. He had sent me to the car. He had chosen her narrative over my reality. Because he was scared, because he was declining, and because he was being manipulated by a master. If I went in, guns blazing, with this data, if I dropped a truth bomb on him, what would happen? He would collapse. He would shatter. He would retreat into denial, and I would be the one who'd hurt him. Savannah would be there to comfort him, to tell him I was cruel and crazy, and it would only drive him deeper into her control. I couldn't win by proving her wrong. I had to win by proving the truth to him, in a way he could accept. I couldn't just be an engineer. I had to be a daughter. I had to find a way to reach the man who taught me how circuits work, the man who was now trapped in a faulty system he couldn't see. I had to go to him, not with an accusation, but with a diagnostic. I had to show him the wires, one by one, and let him see the short for himself. I had to get him alone. This was the hardest part of the circuit. Savannah had wrapped herself around his life like faulty insulation, controlling his calls, his appointments, his perception. I couldn't call the house. She would answer. I couldn't show up at the door. She would call the police, citing Cranford's letter. I had to find a neutral wire. His doctor's office. He had an annual checkup every December. A routine so ingrained he wouldn't let Savannah move it. I knew the date. I parked across the street from the medical building, an hour early, and I waited. I wouldn't intercept him, not yet. I just needed to see the new dynamic. At 9:50 a.m., Savannah's new SUV pulled up. She got out of the driver's side. My father got out of the passenger side. He looked smaller, and he was walking with a new uncertainty. She didn't hold his arm. She walked slightly ahead, a gatekeeper, her hand on her phone, guiding him toward the door. She was a picture of dutiful care, and she was leaving. She waved to him, blew a kiss, and got back in the car. She had errands. She would be back in 1 hour. This was my window. I knew he'd be in there, in the waiting room, for at least 15 minutes. The Blue Grain Cafe was 2 doors down. I walked in, ordered 2 black coffees, and sat in a booth. Then I sent him a text message. I'm at the Blue Grain. I know you're alone. I have coffee. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to show you a repair estimate. I watched my phone. The message was delivered. A minute later, the 3 dots appeared. He was typing. Then they vanished. He was a man trapped between his new, nervous reality and a lifetime of being my father. The door of the cafe chimed. He stood there, his coat still buttoned, his eyes darting to the street. He looked like a man breaking parole. Kira, you can't, that letter. I'm not contacting you. Dad, I'm sitting in a public cafe, and you're a free man getting coffee. Please, sit down. He slid into the booth, his movements stiff. He wouldn't look at me. He stared at the salt shaker. She's very good to me. Kira, he said, his voice a low, rehearsed mumble. She manages everything. The house, the bills. I couldn't do it without her. She's taking good care of me. It was a script. He was reciting the lines that made his new life possible. I didn't attack the script. I just nodded. I know. Dad, I'm not here to talk about her. I'm here to talk about the house. I pushed one of the coffees toward him. His hands were shaking slightly as he reached for it. I'm not going to accuse anyone of anything, I said quietly, keeping my voice low. I'm just going to show you some data, like a diagnostic. I pulled a single sheet of paper from my coat pocket. I had printed it at the library. It was a screenshot of the CAN bus log from his SUV. This is the computer log from your car. Dad, I pulled it when I was checking the garage panel. It's just a list of sensor readings. He squinted at the lines of code. I don't understand this. You don't need to. Just the timestamps, I pointed. Here, 10:57 p.m. Rear right door open. That's when the back door opened. And here, I pointed again. 11:09 p.m. Front left door open. That's when I got to the car. He stared at the numbers. 12 minutes. 12 minutes, I confirmed. I said nothing else. I let the silence hang. She might have gone out to get something, he stammered, defending the gap. You're right. I pulled out a second piece of paper. The photo from Mr. O'Leary's doorbell camera. Here she is, 10:58 p.m. She's carrying that white bag, the one I found in the trunk. His face was pale. He looked at the grainy image of Savannah, alone, in the dark, walking to the car. She was setting up, Dad. Stop, he whispered. He held up a hand. Stop. It was Christmas. Everyone was angry. She was just upset. Okay, I put the papers away. You're right. Let's talk about the roof. He looked relieved. The roof? Yes. It's all fixed. She handled the whole thing. A real emergency. I know. $18,400. That's a lot of money. I pulled out my phone. I didn't show him the invoice. I didn't show him the shell company. Not yet. I just showed him a picture. I hired a drone photographer yesterday. $50. I wanted to see the new shingles. I turned the phone to face him. It was a high-resolution, crystal-clear aerial shot of his roof, his old, faded, 30-year-old shingles, and in the corner, Over the garage was a bright blue plastic tarp, held down by bricks. He stared at the picture for a full minute. I could see the muscles in his jaw working. I saw the deep, profound tectonic shift of humiliation. He, Graham Alden, the man who taught me how to read a schematic, had been conned. It's a temporary patch, he said, but his voice had no conviction. Dad, that is a $50 tarp. I was on that roof last year. It doesn't need a patch. It needed 2 shingles replaced. She took $18,400 from your account. For that. He closed his eyes. He put his head in his hands. I didn't know. I just sign. I sign what she gives me. This was the opening, the crack in the foundation. I know, I said, my voice gentle. Dad, that's why I'm here. This isn't about the money. Not really. It's about this. I took a breath. Did you know that Mr. Cranford, her lawyer, threatened to file an emergency order of protection for an elderly person? He looked up, his face a mask of confusion. What? No. She said that was just to get you to give us all space, to stop the fighting. No, Dad, I leaned in. This is the most important part. You need to hear this. An order like that. It's not about space. It means I am legally, criminally barred from contacting you. I can't call you. I can't text you. I can't come to the house. If I do, I am arrested. His face went from pale to gray. It means, I continued, pressing the diagnostic, that Savannah becomes your only point of contact. It gives her the legal standing to make your medical decisions. To sign for you, it's a legal tool to sever me, permanently. So she is the only one left. It's what you do right before you take control of an estate. The color drained from his face. He finally, truly understood. This wasn't a family squabble. This was an invasion. He had thought the shouting on Christmas was the crisis. He didn't realize it was just the cover fire for the real attack. Oh, God, he whispered, looking at the door. Oh, God, Kira. I am going to stop this, I said, my voice flat and certain. I have the data. I have the bank records. I know about Monarch. I know about Etta. I know about the $2,000 kitchen gift cards. He just shook his head, overwhelmed. But I need you, I said. I can't do this if you're working against me. I need you to just stay out of the way. I promise you. I will prove this. And if I am wrong, if by some miracle, this is all a misunderstanding and she really did spend $18,000 on that blue tarp, I will disappear. I will never contact you again. I will leave you in peace. He looked at me, his eyes wet. He was a proud man, and he was cornered by his own frailty. Don't, he finally said, his voice hoarse. Don't make a scene. What? A public scene. Please, Kira, I can't. I can't bear the humiliation. This town, everyone knows her. The charity. Don't humiliate her. Don't humiliate me. I looked at my father, a man so terrified of his own shadow that he was begging me to let the wolf at his door stay, as long as it didn't bark loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I promise, I said, I will not humiliate anyone. I will only present the facts. He didn't understand the difference. I did. Humiliation was an emotion. Facts were a weapon. He nodded, grabbing onto that promise. He stood up, fumbling for his wallet. I have to go. My appointment. She'll be waiting. Dad, the safe, in the garage. He froze. What about it? She's going to try to get into it. The city inspection email I sent, that was a trap. For her. She's going to go for the papers, the deeds, the trust. He looked at me, a flicker of his old self returning, a flash of slyness. She's been asking for the combination, for weeks. She says we need to organize the papers, put them in the new trust. Did you give it to her? No, he said, with a hint of pride. No, I told her I couldn't remember. I told her you were the only one who knew it, from when you set up the new lock. Dad. He waved his hand, dismissive, lost in his small victory. She'll never get in. It's our old code. She'll never guess it. She's not family. He was speaking more to himself now, to the ghost of my mother. It's October 17th, 53. He said it without thinking. October 17th, 1953. Their wedding anniversary. The one thing in that house Savannah could never, ever touch. The one piece of my mother Savannah could never erase. And he had just handed it to me. "Go to your appointment, Dad," I said, my voice suddenly thick. He nodded. He turned and walked out of the cafe. A man walking a tightrope between two futures. I watched him. He stepped onto the sidewalk just as Savannah's SUV turned the corner. Pulling up to the curb, he got in, and she drove him away. Friday night, 7 o'clock, I was parked 2 streets over from my father's house, in the dark, the engine of my work truck cold. My laptop was open on the passenger seat, a glowing island in the cab. I had 3 windows open, a live feed from the garage camera, a terminal window monitoring the Wi-Fi logger, and an audio interface for the porch light microphone, currently silent. I was running all of it through a mobile hotspot. It was a heist, but I wasn't breaking in. I was watching them lock themselves in. At 7:02 p.m., a car turned onto the street, Savannah's. She parked in the driveway. Etta Vale got out of the passenger side, looking pale. My laptop chimed. The Wi-Fi logger woke up. A new device had connected to the smart plug I'd installed. MAC address, Savannah P iPhone 14, connected to smart plug outlet. MAC address, ETTV Samsung, connected to smart plug outlet. I had them both. The sniffer began logging every packet, every server they pinged. I switched to the garage camera feed. The side door opened. Savannah and Etta entered, stamping the cold from their feet. My father was not with them. "He's in his study. He won't come out," Savannah said, her voice sharp and clear on the camera's audio. "He said he felt ill, which is fine. He served his purpose." Etta wrung her hands. "I don't like this, Savannah. What if this city inspector asks about Monarch? What if he wants to see the roof?" "He's not a roofing inspector, you idiot," Savannah snapped. "He's a documentation inspector. He's just here to see the papers. Now, where is it?" She marched straight to the safe. My camera, tucked inside the wall, had a perfect, clear view. "He said it was old," Savannah muttered. She tried her own birthday. Access denied. She tried my father's birthday. Access denied. She let out a hissed breath of frustration. "He's playing games." She pulled out her phone and typed a text. She waited, vibrating with impatience. Then, she put her phone away. She took a deep breath. She placed her fingers on the keypad. 1, 0, 1, 7, 5, 3. October 17th, 1953. My stomach dropped. It was a cold, heavy stone. My father had given her the code. My mother's wedding anniversary, the one piece of our family she wasn't supposed to be able to touch. He had given it to her. Sometime between that morning at the cafe and now, he had broken. The light on the safe turned green. The handle clicked. Savannah pulled the heavy door open. Etta gasped. "See? Access," Savannah said. All triumph. She rummaged inside. His will, old stock certificates. Ah, here. She pulled out a thick manila envelope labeled Deeds and a thin file folder. I zoomed in. Alden Living Trust, draft. And then she saw it. The USB drive I'd left. The one magnetically clipped to the side. Labeled Alden Trust, digital key. "And what's this?" She snatched it. "This must be the digital copy he said Kira managed. Perfect." She tucked the USB and the paper draft into her expensive handbag. "The inspector can see this, and then I can make some revisions." She closed the safe, spun the dial. She had what she came for. My laptop chimed again, a different, sharper tone, a pop-up from Noah's Greyflex software. "Alert. Trust key USB has been activated. Location, IP address, 72.1.155.10. Briarfield cable. User, S. Pike on Savannah MB Pro. She hadn't even waited. She must have gone back into the house, into the study, and plugged it into her laptop, leaving Etta in the garage. Noah's software tunnel opened immediately, giving me a remote, read-only view. I watched, my heart hammering, as she opened the file on the drive. Alden Living Trust V3 PDF. It was my father's draft. Then I watched her click Save As. A new file name appeared. Alden Living Trust V4, Spike Edits, PDF. She went into the document's properties. I watched her mouse move. She changed the author field from Graham Alden to S. Pike. She was digitally, literally, overwriting him. She was claiming authorship of his entire financial future. I took screenshots. I took a screen recording. I had her. I glanced back at the garage feed. Etta was still there, alone, pacing, looking uncomfortable. She was idly looking at the workbench, at the new breaker panel, and she saw the second trap. It was a simple, cheap-looking USB drive, red plastic, with the Briarfield Ledger logo printed on it. A piece of junk. I'd left it on the workbench as if it had fallen out of someone's pocket. Etta looked around. She was bored. She was curious. She picked it up. She looked at the old, dusty desktop computer in the corner of the garage, the one my father used for parts catalogs. "No," I whispered at my screen. "Don't be that stupid." She was that stupid. She walked over, woke the computer, and plugged it in. My laptop flashed. A new window. Alert. Ledger key activated. User, G. Alden Workshop. Forensic watermark scan initiated. File, Monarch Contract V2.pdf. Found on local machine, watermark applied. File, Etta Vale, Banking, XLSX. Found on local machine, watermark applied. Noah's tool wasn't just bait. It was a forensic scanner. It had found the Monarch contract on that old computer. Etta must have used it to print something, and had now permanently, digitally watermarked the file, tying it to her user session. She had just placed herself at the scene of the crime. Savannah walked back into the garage. "The inspector is running late. What a surprise. He's not even—" She stopped. "What are you doing?" Etta jumped, pulling the USB drive out. "Nothing. It was just... here." Savannah rolled her eyes. "Stop snooping. Just hold this. I need a copy for my own records." She handed Etta the paper Monarch contract. Savannah pulled out her phone. She opened her camera app. "Hold it flat." She took several high-resolution photos of the fraudulent contract. My Wi-Fi logger went crazy. Wi-Fi sniffer. Large packet transfer detected from Savannah P iPhone 14. Destination, estpike@icloud.com. Packet size, 24.5 megabytes. Photo. She was taking pictures of a felony fraud document and immediately uploading the full resolution evidence to her own cloud account. She was so arrogant. She was creating her own backups for me. "Okay, let's go," Savannah said. "This is a waste of time. We have what we need." They walked out of the garage, leaving the side door open. They walked across the dark porch, and Savannah, in a final act of domestic authority, reached for the porch light switch to turn it on, just to lock up the house. The switch flipped. My audio interface, which had been silent, crackled to life. "Can't believe how easy it was," Savannah's voice said, crystal clear, picked up by the contact mic. "That old fool gave up the code this afternoon. A little pressure, a few tears about security, and he folded." Etta's voice was nervous. "Savannah, what about Kira? She's smart. She scares me." And then, the sound of Savannah's laugh. It was cold, sharp, and utterly without humor. "Oh, honey, stop worrying about her. Christmas Eve made perfect waves. She's totally discredited. Between the neighborly post and Cranford's letter, she's legally toxic. The board will pity me. The donors will love the elder care angle for the gala. She's irrelevant. They got in their car. The doors slammed. The engine started. They drove away. I sat in my truck. The street was silent again. My laptop glowed. I had the video of the safe. I had the digital proof of the file theft. I had the watermarked files from Etta. I had the high-resolution photo of the fraud. And I had the audio. I had her, in her own voice, confessing the entire plot. I picked up my phone. I dialed Maya Sarin. "Ledger, Sarin speaking." "It's the North Shore technician," I said. "I have the package. What's your standard for publication?" She sighed. "I told you, I'm not running anything from an anonymous source. I need 2 independent, verifiable sources, or I need original, authenticated evidence." "I know," I said. "I'm sending you an email. It contains a series of SHA-256 hashes. They are unique digital fingerprints for 3 files: a video, a car's CAN bus log, and a doorbell camera image. I am not sending you the files. I am sending you their digital DNA." "What's the point?" she asked. "The point is, you are going to be the independent source. Go to Mr. O'Leary's house and ask for his footage from Christmas Eve. Go to my father's house with a CAN bus reader and pull the log from his SUV. When you get those files, run a hash on them. If your hashes match the ones I sent you, you'll know I'm telling the truth. You'll know your evidence is original, and you will be the one who sourced it." I hung up before she could argue. I looked at the glowing screens, the video, the audio, the metadata. I had enough to end this. I could send Savannah to jail. But I looked at the audio transcript. The words echoed in my head. "That old fool gave up the code this afternoon." My father, he had caved. He was so terrified, so controlled, that he had handed her the keys to my mother's memory. I had all the evidence to prove the crime, but I had no evidence that my father was a man, not a hostage. I could blow up the whole system, but he was still wired into it. He was still connected to her. I had the facts, but I didn't have the one thing that mattered. I didn't have a way to make him walk away. I had the audio, the digital, undeniable proof of her contempt, her plan, and her victory. "That old fool gave up the code this afternoon." My father's surrender, her victory. My first instinct was pure, white-hot rage. I wanted to drive to the house, kick open the door, and play that audio on a loop until the walls shook. But I looked at the driver's seat of my truck, empty, and I saw him, beaten, scared, a hostage. You don't save a hostage by blowing up the building. You have to disarm the bomb, cut the wires, and convince him to walk out on his own. My anger was a luxury I couldn't afford. This next part had to be his. I called him. "Dad, I'm not going to ask you to meet me. I'm going to hire an independent roofing contractor. His name is Len Harrow. He's the most respected guy in Bryan County. I'm going to pay him $300 for a formal assessment of your roof. All I ask is that you be there when he does it. I won't even get out of the car." There was a long pause. "Okay, Len Harrow, when?" "Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. I was parked down the street, just like I promised. I watched Len Harrow's truck pull up. My father was waiting on the porch, looking small. Len was a big man who looked like he wrestled bears. He said hello to my father, unpacked his ladder, and climbed onto the roof. He was up there for 15 minutes. He walked every angle. He took photos. He came back down, his clipboard in his hand. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could see his body language. He looked baffled. He pointed at the blue tarp. He pointed at the rest of the roof. He kept shaking his head. My father, from my vantage point, just seemed to shrink. Finally, Len packed up. My father walked, like a man in a trance, toward my truck. He got in. He didn't say anything for a full minute. He said, my father's voice was a dry rasp. He said he's never seen a cleaner roof for its age. He said the tarp was a joke. He said, "Mr. Alden, if you paid more than $500 for this, you were robbed. And if someone charged you for a full replacement," he said, "I'd call the police." I nodded. What did he say a full replacement would actually cost? He said top of the line, maybe $4,200, maybe. My father stared through the windshield. The first wire was cut. The physical lie was exposed. Now what? He whispered. I reached into my bag. I pulled out the Monarch Homeworks contract Etta had given me. I didn't show him the forged signature. I just handed him the paper. This is their invoice, the one I got from Etta. He took it. His hands trembled. But he read the line items. Kitchen, appliances, $2,000. His eyes went to the total. $18,400. He was holding in his hands the physical proof of Len Harrow's words. Now, Dad, look at the last page, the signature. He flipped the page. He stared at the clean digital block that said, Graham Alden. I never saw this, he said. His voice was dead. I don't sign things on a computer. I would have remembered. I know, I said. She signed it. Dad, she forged your name, using her own email account, to move your money into her assistant's company. This is a felony. He just held the paper. He was holding the legal lie. We have to go somewhere, I said. Right now. The police? No, not yet. We have to go to a doctor. He looked at me, terrified. A doctor? Kira, is she right? Am I losing it? No, I said, my voice hard. You are not, but her entire plan relies on everyone thinking you are. The elder protection order, the community outreach at the charity. We are going to defuse that bomb right now. I had made an appointment with a new doctor, one Savannah had never heard of, across the county. I paid cash. I asked for a full physical and a senior cognitive assessment. My father sat in the sterile room, answering questions. What is the date? Who is the president? He counted backward from 100 by sevens. He named 12 different animals that start with the letter D. He was sharp. He was lucid. The doctor, a kind woman named Eris, finally turned to us. Mr. Alden, you have the blood pressure of a stressed man, but you have the cognitive function of a 60-year-old. You are 100% competent to make all of your own medical and financial decisions. My father started to cry, quiet, shaking sobs of pure relief. Doctor, Eris looked at me. Your file says your current medical power of attorney is a Ms. Savannah Pike. I looked at my father. I didn't say a word. It had to be his move. He wiped his eyes. He sat up straighter. Doctor, he said, his voice finding a new, old, gravelly tone. I want to change that, right now. I want my daughter, Kira Alden, to be my sole power of attorney, and I want you to put in my file that Savannah Pike is not authorized to receive any of my information, ever. The nurse printed the new forms. He signed his name, his real, shaky, left-leaning signature. He had just taken back control of his own life. We sat in the truck in the clinic's parking lot. We had the medical truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya Sarin. She's done this before, I read aloud. Maya found it. A civil suit, 2019, different county, a man named Arthur Finley. Savannah was his companion caretaker. The family sued her for undue influence and asset transfer. It was settled, and the records were sealed. 2019, my father repeated. She was with me then. This is her profession, Dad. This is her pattern. I pulled out my laptop. One more thing. My friend Noah, the tech specialist, he took all my data, the car log, the doorbell camera, the bank transfer, the blog post draft, and he put it on one slide. Just the timeline, just the facts. I turned the screen to him. 12:30 p.m. $18,400. Transfer to Monarch. Etta Vale. 10:57 p.m. Pike enters SUV. Source, O'Leary camera, CAN bus log. 11:07 p.m. Victim photo taken. Source, SMS timestamp. 11:09 p.m. Alden arrives at SUV. Source, CAN bus log. 11:20 p.m. abuse, blog post, drafted. Source, RSS feed metadata, 0712 a.m., lawyer, cease and desist, sent, source, email header. He read the timeline, his finger tracing the flow of events. He was seeing the architecture of his own betrayal, not as a messy, emotional fight, but as a clean, cold, engineering diagram. She had the post written, he murmured, before you even left the house. She had the money transferred, I said, before I even arrived. He had the physical proof. He had the legal proof. He had the medical proof. He had the historical proof. There is one last thing, I said, and it's the hardest one. I opened the audio file from the porch light microphone. This was from Friday night, when she and Etta were in the garage, trying to get into the safe. He flinched. He knew what this meant. He knew he had given her the code. She said I was an old fool, he whispered, not looking at me. Yes, you need to hear it. Not for me, for you. You need to hear the voice she uses when you're not in the room. I pressed play. We sat in the truck, in the quiet parking lot, and listened. Savannah's voice, high and brittle. Can't believe how easy it was. That old fool gave up the code this afternoon. A little pressure, a few tears about security, and he folded. My father's eyes closed. Etta's voice, nervous. Savannah, what about Kira? She scares me. Savannah's laugh, cold, sharp, hateful. Oh, honey, stop worrying about her. Christmas Eve made perfect waves. She's totally discredited. Between the neighborly post and Cranford's letter, she's legally toxic. The board will pity me. The donors will love the elder care angle for the gala. She's irrelevant. I stopped the recording. The silence was absolute. My father didn't speak. He just sat there. I had given him every weapon. I had defused every bomb. But he was the one who had to walk out of the room. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet, almost academic. The laugh, he said. That's the one. The voice she uses with me. It's soft. It sounds like she's always worried about me. It's a trained tone, I said. That was the real one. He nodded, a slow, single motion. He had been a con. He had been a target. But he was not an old fool, not anymore. I agreed to a meeting, he said. Tomorrow, she set it up, with Cranford, and a neutral mediator. She called it a family reconciliation. She wants me to sign the new trust. I know, I said. I was going to go. I was going to take all this data, and I was going to burn her to the ground. He turned. He looked at me. His eyes were not watery. They were not scared. They were clear. And they were cold. And they were the eyes I remembered from the man who taught me to test a live wire. No, he said. You won't. You'll be there. You'll sit next to me. You'll bring the data. But you will not say a word. He took a deep, shuddering breath. I will speak. I will speak myself. The conference room at Reese Calder's office was designed to be neutral. A beige and gray box of acoustic panels and brushed steel, engineered to absorb sound and emotion. It smelled like industrial carpet cleaner. At the center of the polished, unmarked table sat a small, black digital audio recorder. This is an informal mediation, Calder said, his voice flat. He was a man we had chosen from a list, connected to no one in this room. I will record for the firm's records. Nothing said here is admissible in court, but any agreement signed today is legally binding. Do we all consent? We did. I sat to my father's right. He was wearing his old gray suit, the one he reserved for things he dreaded, like funerals and tax audits. He looked straight ahead, his hands folded. I had my laptop, but it was closed. Across the table sat Savannah Pike, dressed in a soft, cream-colored cashmere. She looked like the victim, her expression one of pained, brave confusion. Next to her, Etta Vale looked green, her hands twisting in her lap. Good, Calder said. Let us begin, Mr. Alden. You requested this meeting. However, counsel for Ms. Pike has raised concerns about Undue influence. A large monitor on the wall flickered to life, and Miles Cranford's face appeared, sharp and tan. He was joining by video. A power move. "Reese, let's be blunt," Cranford boomed. "We are here because Mr. Alden's daughter, who is currently under a cease and desist for her volatility, has clearly coerced her declining father into this ambush. My client, Ms. Pike, is the victim here." "A declining father?" "My father?" Graham spoke. His voice was quiet, but the room was so silent it landed like a hammer. Calder held up a hand. "Let's clear that up. I received a full cognitive and physical assessment of Mr. Alden this morning, conducted yesterday by a third-party physician, Dr. Aris. The report is unequivocal. Mr. Alden is, and I quote, fully competent, lucid, and possesses all capacities to manage his own medical and financial affairs. That report is now part of the record." Savannah's soft expression tightened. Dr. Aris was not on her approved list. "With that established," Calder continued, turning to my father, "you asked me to clarify the documents you were presented with last week. The living trust as drafted would make Ms. Pike the sole, irrevocable trustee, with full power to liquidate all assets, including your home. The elder protection order Mr. Cranford threatened would make any contact from your daughter a criminal offense. These are extreme measures." "Thank you, Mrs. Calder," my father said. "I understand their severity." "This is ridiculous," Savannah said, her voice finding that perfect, trembling note of offense. "I was trying to protect Graham. From her." She pointed at me. "She has been stalking my staff. She has been committing computer crimes. She is unstable. I have a whole community that will attest to my character. What does she have?" Cranford jumped in. "If Ms. Alden has made accusations, we are prepared to file, today, a suit for slander, defamation, and harassment. This is her last chance to walk away." I had not spoken. I watched my father. He nodded at me. Once. I pushed my closed laptop, a single sheet of paper, and a pen across the table. I looked at Savannah. "This is not an accusation," I said, my voice low and flat. "It is a data set, and this is an offer." Savannah stared at the paper. "That paper is a settlement," I said. "It states that the Monarch Homeworks contract is nullified due to fraud. It requires the immediate return of $18,400. You and Etta sign it, and this meeting is over. The data remains private." Cranford laughed. "Data? What data? You have nothing. You're bluffing." "I am not a gambler. Mr. Cranford," I said. "I am an engineer. I don't have copies. I have digital fingerprints, SHA 256 hashes, for a chain of evidence, the CAN bus log from the SUV, timestamping every door opening, a neighbor's security camera footage, the server log from the neighborly blog, showing the draft post time, the bank transfer that happened 10 hours before the argument, the forged signature certificate on the Monarch contract, the audio file of the old fool conversation on the porch, the metadata from the victim photo." I looked at Savannah. "That's the one you can clear up. Savannah, right now." Calder, the mediator, saw the opening. "Ms. Pike, this seems to be the core issue. Your claim of abuse rests on a photo taken, as your post said, at 11:07 p.m. Please unlock your phone and show us the original image file. The metadata will confirm the time. If it confirms your story, this is all over." Savannah's hand instinctively clapped down on her phone, as if shielding it. "I don't have to show you anything. I am the victim." "A simple verification," Calder pressed, his voice neutral. "No, this is an invasion of my privacy. I am being attacked." "Why not?" "Savannah?" my father asked. His voice was genuinely curious, like he was asking about a strange weather pattern. "If you are innocent, why be afraid? It's just a picture. Just show him the phone." I... Savannah looked from my father to me, her eyes filled with a new reptilian calculation. "You," she hissed at me, You did this. You hacked my phone. I didn't have to, I said. You uploaded the full resolution photos of the fraudulent Monarch contract to your own cloud account. You did it while you were in the garage. Etta Vale made a small, squeaking sound. All eyes turned to her. She was sweating, her makeup running. That's enough, Cranford yelled from the screen. Savannah, Etta, say nothing. This is coercion. We are leaving. I'm prepared to file a motion for third-party forensic extraction, I said, my voice cutting through his. We can pull the logs, the Wi-Fi packet sniffer I left in the smart plug, the airdrop logs from your laptop, the keylogger that registered when you typed my mother's wedding anniversary into the safe, the forensic watermark from the USB key you plugged in. We can trace all of it. Etta Vale broke. It was not a gradual thing. It was a complete structural failure. I didn't know, she shrieked, the sound echoing in the deadened room. I didn't know about the roof. You? She said it was just paperwork. She said it was for the charity. She said it was a way to protect his assets. Etta, shut up. Savannah's voice was a blade. No. Etta was sobbing, pointing at Savannah. She told me Monarch was a shell. She told me to take my coordination fee, the $2,000, and transfer the rest to her personal account. She said he was fading and that you, she looked at me, were violent and trying to steal from him. I just did the transfers. I have the records. I was scared. The room was completely silent, broken only by Etta's gasps. Cranford's face on the monitor was a mask of pale, frozen horror. His client's assistant had just confessed to wire fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement in a recorded mediation. Calder looked at the recorder, then at Savannah. Her face was white, her lips a thin, bloodless line. This mediation has failed, Calder said. He picked up a different piece of paper, one he had pre-prepared. This is a new offer. It is an unconditional surrender. You will return the money, plus damages. You will sign a full mutual release and a permanent 500-yard, no-contact order. You will walk away from Mr. Alden, Ms. Alden, and any and all related entities. He slid the paper toward her. This is the last, quiet off-ramp you will be offered. I suggest you take it. Savannah looked at the paper. She looked at Etta, who was a collapsed, weeping pile. She looked at my father, who was watching her with an expression of cold, clear pity, and she looked at me, the person who had not raised her voice, the person who had just shown the math. For 1 second, I saw her calculate the odds. I saw her weigh the public humiliation against the private defeat. She chose the public. She stood up, her movement so sharp it was violent. Her chair screeched and toppled backward onto the carpet. You will not do this to me, she spat, her voice no longer a victim's tremble, but a low, acidic snarl. You think your files, your data, means anything? I built that charity. I am this town, the donors, the board. They love me. You think they will believe a failed electrician and a senile old man over me? You have nothing. She grabbed the settlement offer. She tore it in half. She tore it in quarters. She threw the pieces onto the center of the table, where they fluttered down around the recorder. Cranford, we're done. The monitor clicked off. She grabbed her handbag, the one containing the draft of the trust she had stolen, the USB key she had used, and she walked, head held high, out of the conference room. She didn't slam the door. She closed it with a soft, final click. Etta didn't move. Calder sighed. He reached out and pressed the stop button on the digital recorder. Well, he said, looking at my father, that was unambiguous. My father stood up. He buttoned his suit jacket. He looked, for the first time in a year, like he was in charge of his own body. Thank you for your time, Mr. Calder, he said. He looked at Etta. Young lady, I believe you need a lawyer. and I suggest you do not hire Mr. Cranford." We walked out. We didn't speak in the hallway. We didn't speak in the elevator. We rode down in silence, the sterile music playing. The doors opened onto the bright, cold lobby. My father walked ahead of me. He pushed the heavy glass door and stepped out onto the sidewalk, blinking in the sudden sunlight. "She's not running, Dad," I said, stopping next to him. "She's going to fight. She's going to use the gala. She's going to get on that stage and play the victim, and she's betting her reputation will beat our facts." He nodded, watching the traffic. "Yes, she is." He turned to me, the sun full on his face. "I'll see you in public. Then." The Hearts of Briarfield. Winter Gala was Savannah's masterpiece. Her coronation, the ballroom at the Briarfield Country Club, was draped in silver and ice blue, packed with the town's most influential people, all sipping champagne and writing checks. And at the center of it all was Savannah, a star in a glittering midnight blue gown. Her voice broadcast over the sound system, welcoming everyone, her tone a perfect blend of warmth and humble gratitude. The theme, emblazoned on a banner over the stage, was "Protecting Our Seniors." I was not on the guest list. I was in the audio-visual booth in the back of the ballroom, wearing the black uniform of the event's tech crew, a favor Dax Ruiz had pulled with the venue. I had a full view of the stage, the 2 large projection screens, and the mixing board. I was just there to check a faulty microphone input. I had checked it. I had tested the entire system. My father was at a table near the front, seated next to Reese Calder. He looked calm. He was nursing a glass of water. The event was running like a Swiss watch, but the air in the room was electric for a different reason. Phones were buzzing. People were huddling in corners, their faces illuminated by their screens, whispering. At 8:45 p.m., exactly 1 hour before Savannah's keynote appeal, Maya Sarin's article had gone live on the Briarfield Ledger's website. I had read it. It was a masterpiece of cold, factual reporting. Maya had done her work. She had the county business filings for Monarch Homeworks. She had the interview with Len Harrow, the roofer, who stated, on the record, that the job was a total fabrication. She had the public records of the 2019 civil suit, unsealed by a judge after she'd presented proof of a pattern. She had talked to Mr. O'Leary, who confirmed his doorbell footage. She had, as I'd requested, hashed her own evidence, and the digital fingerprints had matched, proving their authenticity. The article never mentioned my name. It didn't mention a daughter. It just laid out the facts, a cold, clean schematic of fraud, all pointing at Savannah and her charity. But Savannah, on stage, was insulated by her own spotlight. She hadn't seen it yet. She was gliding from table to table, laughing, accepting praise for her tireless work. At 9 o'clock, the lights dimmed, the gala's official video began, a soft-focus tribute to Savannah's good deeds, and then she took the stage for her appeal. "Tonight," she said, her voice catching with emotion, her hand on her heart, "we are here for those who can no longer speak for themselves. We are here to be a shield for our beloved elders, from financial predators, from neglect, and sometimes from the very people who should love them most." She paused, letting the implication hang in the air. This was her moment, her public execution of my character. "It is a silent crisis," she continued, "and tonight I want to tell you about a very personal—" "Excuse me." A new voice cut through the sound system. Not Savannah's, it was Maya Sarin. On the 2 giant screens, the soft-focus gala video was replaced by the logo for the Briarfield Ledger Investigates. Savannah froze. She tapped her microphone. "I'm sorry. We have a technical." But the video was playing. Maya Sarin, professional and unflinching, was on screen. In Briarfield, the line between charity and profit has become dangerously blurred. Tonight, as Hearts of Briarfield asks for your money, we investigate where that money actually goes. The room was dead silent. On the screen, the picture, the one Savannah had taken in the SUV. Time-stamped 11:07 p.m. This photo was posted on Christmas Eve, Maya's voiceover said, implying a volatile family member, but vehicle and security camera logs obtained by the Ledger show Savannah Pike was alone in that car for 12 minutes before the alleged confrontation. The accompanying blog post, accusing an unnamed family member, was drafted at 11:20 p.m., just minutes later. Savannah's face was a mask of white shock. She was looking desperately toward the AV booth. I just looked back. The screen changed. The Monarch Homeworks logo, the invoice, $18,400 for a roof repair. Maya said, "But this is the roof, a $50 tarp, and this is the business filing for Monarch, registered to Etta Vale, Ms. Pike's assistant." And then, Maya's voice continued, "There is Arthur Finley. In 2019, Mr. Finley's family filed a civil suit against Ms. Pike, alleging undue influence. That case, which was settled and sealed, details an identical pattern: a living trust, a campaign of isolation, and the transfer of assets." The video ended. The screens went black. A single spotlight came up on the stage, illuminating Savannah's horrified, frozen face. "And now," Reese Calder's voice said, firm and clear. He was walking onto the stage from the side wing, my father at his side. My father did not look frail. He looked resolved. "My name is Reese Calder. I am an attorney representing Mr. Graham Alden," he said into a different microphone, one I had patched to be the only live channel. "As of yesterday, Mr. Alden has undergone a full, notarized cognitive assessment confirming his complete mental competence." He placed a document on the podium. "As his attorney, I am here to announce that Mr. Alden has, as of this morning, revoked any and all financial and medical power of attorney previously granted to Ms. Savannah Pike. All signatory rights are rescinded. All access to his accounts has been terminated." My father stepped up to the microphone. "I am Graham Alden," he said. His voice, my father's voice, filled the room. "I am not a victim. I am a man who was manipulated. I am a man who was lied to." "No!" Savannah shrieked. It was a sound from the depths of her, a sound of pure primal rage. The mask was gone. "He doesn't know what he's saying. He's senile. She was pointing, not at me, but at my father. You old fool." She lunged for the podium, for his microphone. It was the one technical trick I had been waiting for. I had set the gain on that specific podium mic to be incredibly high. The moment she lunged, grabbing it, her shriek created a feedback spike so massive, so piercing, that the system's anti-feedback protocol kicked in. Just as I'd programmed it, there was a deafening scree, and then silence. Her channel was dead. The board had automatically muted it to protect the speakers. It was a clean, technical silencing. I looked at the main floor. In the ensuing chaos, I saw Etta Vale, surrounded by 3 of the charity's board members, weeping and signing the paper Reese Calder had placed in front of her, the one that returned the $18,400 in exchange for her full cooperation. From the stage, the charity's chairman, a man who looked like he'd just been electrocuted, stepped to the other microphone. In light of this information, the Hearts of Briarfield Board is immediately suspending Ms. Pike. We are launching a full, independent audit, effective now." Savannah was standing alone on the stage, her mouth moving, but no sound coming out. Security was walking toward her. She turned and fled, disappearing behind the velvet curtain. It was over. The ballroom lights came up. The room was a chaos of whispers. My father walked off the stage, past the shocked donors, and straight to me in the AV booth. He looked at the mixing board, at the blinking lights, the complex web of inputs and outputs. He put his hand on my shoulder. "I thought I needed a protector," he said, his voice thick. "Someone to be a shield. Turns out, I just needed someone to turn on the lights." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. I powered down the audio board. I still had one piece of evidence left in my pocket. The SD card, the one with the audio from the porch, the one where she had laughed and called him an old fool, the one I had planned to play over the speakers if he had faltered. He hadn't. I left the card in the booth. I would not humiliate her. I had kept my promise. I would only restore order. I drove my father home. We used his SUV. When we got to the house, I walked to the garage, and he gave me the combination. October 17th, 1953. I opened the safe. Everything was there. The deeds, the old stock certificates, and in the back, a small tin box. I took the box. It held my mother's papers, her letters. I drove him back to his house. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. He was going to stay in a hotel for a few weeks, until the locks were changed and the house felt like his again. I drove the SUV back to my own apartment. I parked it on the street. I sat there for a long time, in the driver's seat, the engine off. I put my hand on the passenger seat. It was empty. No one was there. No one had gotten there first. I held the tin box in my lap. I looked up. The DC current of the sodium streetlights hummed. A perfect, unbroken line, stretching down the dark road. The circuit was clean. The flow was correct. The load was balanced. Honor, finally, was grounded. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. So please drop a comment below. Share your thoughts, and let's connect. Please subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it a boost by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.